Welcome to Transforming with Drew, where we talk about everything on the TQIA spectrum. I am very pleased to introduce our wonderful guest, Alexander Switzer, right? All right.
Yeah, Switzer.
Perfect. To Transforming with Drew podcast, where we talk about all things TQIA. Hello, Alexander. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
I am doing great. As you know, it is getting closer to that fall weather, and I like fall.
Oh yeah. We've been looking at pictures from different cities and just seeing the different leaf colors that drop from the trees. I'm like, man, I need some of that in my life.
You should look
Like
up
the
Boston. That's
colors.
where we're at. And
Yeah.
yes, I think Salem's trees are they were absolutely gorgeous last year. So, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience and maybe get a little bit more about you, where you're from, what you do?
Yeah, my name is Alexander. I am from Tucson, Arizona. I have a normal full-time job that I do, and working towards the efforts of starting a full-time business. Within my business, it is called Valid by Brodie. I work on custom t-shirts. I do have some designs in the process right now. There will be some pretty cool things launched hopefully in the next couple of months. I bring I bring the importance of making sure that we're acknowledging pronouns, and advocating for transgender students. So that's a little bit of what I do. And also with the products that I sell, they do typically show pronouns on them. And 20% of the profits goes to buying proper chest binders for transgender youth and young adults who are either unable to afford a proper binder or who are currently binding improperly.
Which, if anybody doesn't understand that, it means that rib damage that can actually happen
Yeah,
if you don't really bind. You
yeah,
don't
and
want that for our young trans people.
right. Unfortunately, because if you're binding improperly for too long, not only are you risking breaking your ribs, there's your ribs could become deformed, pretty morphed. Mine are a little messed up from it. Definitely nothing too bad, but definitely in the process of that happening, the amount of discomfort was unbelievable. And I didn't realize that didn't have to happen, and it was just a simple change of a binder. But accessing those kind of binders can be a little pricey, so that's where the funds over here come in handy.
So, Alexander, when did you start realizing that you wanted to be authentically you? When did you start going through everything, as much as you want to share, of course?
Yeah, when I was younger, I definitely picked up my cousin's skateboard. I was probably in like third grade, and something just felt super right about that. And so I was always kind of like the tomboy growing up. In sixth grade, I probably about sixth grade, I ditched all the girls' clothes and like just boys' clothes completely. In eighth grade, I came out as gay when I was still identifying as female. And then my following freshman year, I came out as transgender. Um, I started testosterone in 2017 and changed my name legally in, I believe, 2019. I'm now getting closer to being 5 years on testosterone.
That is awesome. How do you feel?
I feel incredible. It definitely has been a great experience. Even when it got hard, especially in the beginning with trying to maintain all the chemicals that are rushing through your body and like your body's not familiar with it. Once learning how to kind of move past that, it definitely gets easier, but it's always something that you do have to work on. And as long as, we're making sure that we're maintaining that and focusing on that, it's an incredible journey. And I'm happy to have the opportunity to be able to do it.
That's definitely a good thing to say because I know a lot of people don't realize that they go, you start testosterone, I think, oh, I'm going to be great. And it's like, we're literally going through another puberty.
Yeah. And it's
You got to
intense. It's
understand that.
intense. Yeah. Because it's just, for me, a lot of anger rushed through my body and I didn't know how to handle it. And I guess it was a lot worse than I thought it was. Like, I only was seeing like a third of what everybody around me was seeing. So once realizing that, I was like, wow, yeah, that was a lot to work on. I didn't realize that was going to happen.
So as a young trans man, what challenges would you say you've had to overcome so far?
Definitely overcoming barriers in school, with, dealing with being misgendered in classrooms, having to educate my teachers on how to properly educate me, and hoping that they understood that. Um, I, dealt with having to deal with kids that weren't very nice, even before coming out as trans. They always, teased me about being a boy, and then when I came out as a boy, they teased me because I wasn't enough of a boy. And I was like, "What do you guys want from me?" Um, Dealing with, relationships growing up, once the whole, "Hey, I'm dating your daughter, and also I'm transgender," that part never really went well. So I had a lot of obstacles to overcome in the world of dating. Um, and it just kind of seems like everything that I thought I would be able to approach normally, there's a little bit of a twist on it. And it's just a part of being trans. And I think I discover new things every day. And I have to just continue to work past those barriers. And one of the best ways that I do that is connecting on a Facebook group. It's called FTM Brotherhood. It is support also for non-binary individuals. Just it's very widely known, or else they would change the name. The person that runs it did talks about it a lot, and they're just like, I would change it, but it's just known so well. So that's been a great support system to go to be able to work past these things.
Fun fact, I spoke to Ray last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
when they were talking about the group, and like they were saying, it's just amazing how quickly it expanded. So it's kind of like that's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And I give and talk to so many people that actually get a lot of support from that. So it's really nice
Yeah.
to hear that. Um, so you are working, and I know that like work is always kind of a little bit of finicky thing, especially in today's world. How are you navigating that? Because I know you're trying to make your business full time.
Yeah, so when COVID first started, I was working at a call center. I was working for a cell phone carrier. It was pretty cool. I worked over social media, so I connected with the customers for the multi-billion-dollar company. It was pretty cool. They'd message in Facebook, Twitter. They needed help. I would help them out. And so, that was all computer based. And all of a sudden, one day they're like, "Hey, this is getting pretty bad. We may be thinking about some work from home." And I got to work the next day, and they're like, "Pack up your computer that's at your desk you chose today. You're taking it home. Goodbye." And I'm bipolar, and I also am ADHD. And so the mix of that just really, I can't mix up my schedule like that. Like just the quick like change um, was not good on my mental state. It definitely started like a downward spiral. So I thought it'd be a good idea to leave that job. And it just kind of got worse from there because I realized that job was really, really important, and they gave me opportunities that other people didn't, especially because they allowed me to work from home in a time that I watched a lot of friends lose their jobs or have to go onto unemployment and just hear from their work every week. "Yeah, you'll hear next week. We'll see next week. We'll see if we have work again."
Yeah.
And so I had to try to make the finances work in the meantime while also maintaining mental health through COVID. And luckily, I was able to get back with that same call center, and we are back on site, which is incredible. We take a lot of safety precautions. We make sure to follow all the CDC guidelines. And for somebody who loves people, it's really incredible to be back into a work environment. So it the biggest thing through COVID has been maintaining my mental health to allow myself to continue the work that I need to be able to do. And that was definitely something that I didn't have to do as much prior to COVID. So that was a change.
I definitely think that COVID's kind of sparked a lot of realizations with people, especially when it comes to workforce stuff. I've actually worked from home before COVID, and then I went back into work, and then back home again. And believe it or not, I actually like being at home because I am ADHD meets ASD, so I'm on the spectrum too. So I can get overloaded really quick with people. And as my job's a pretty people-oriented job, I have to take care of a lot of people. So it's like to me, I'm like I can be home and get off the phone and stuff. So But I've been actually, because of COVID, I realized I really need to take care of my mental health too. So I appreciate that you're doing that as well. So it's like we're not alone, but you're definitely doing it too. I'm doing it with you, so I feel your pain on that
Yeah.
for sure. So what has decided you to actually start Valid by Brodie? Like what made you want to be very open about this and help others?
Yeah, so had I'd come out as transgender when I was pretty young, and it was always kind of, I was out about it, but it was also stay quiet about it kind of deal. I grew up in the church a lot. I went to Christian church all my life. Church was consumed my life basically. So growing up, I wasn't really able to be influenced to the LGBT community, and I think that if I were to have been, I would have definitely known who I was a lot sooner than my freshman year of high school. So understanding that there was that gap in our education system of the LGBT community was definitely a huge focus as I was experiencing the gayest world I'd ever experienced when I started high school. I was like, oh my God, look at all these other gay people. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Um, and it seemed like there was just so many of us that were in the community that weren't together. We were all just kind of, passing each other in the hallways and not acknowledging, not noticing that a teacher is discriminating against that kid just as much as they are towards me. And I never knew because we're just walking past each other every single day. So a really good friend of mine that I had in high school, we found that our school had a gay straight alliance. A lot of schools will just abbreviate it to a GSA. The Gay Straight Alliance was very small on our first meeting. So we got into there and there was only about 4 or 5 people in total. And we're like, we see all of our gay pals in this school. Like, why is nobody here? So within the next week, we extremely advocated for the group in putting up posters everywhere and getting involved on Facebook. And the next meeting had over 40 students there. And in
Wow.
that, yeah, it was incredible. And within that group is where we all introduced ourselves, starting out, my name is, I'm transgender, I'm straight, I'm bi, I'm gay. And the first person who introduced themselves as a trans man in the group, he was the only trans person in the group and also the first trans person I had met. And I was like, holy, like, oh my goodness, like, this is like, what? And it was just such a whole new concept to me. And I was like, there's such a large gap where I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
And then as I started my transition, first thing I went to was a chest binder. And the binder I went to, it was not good. It had straps across one side and hooks down the other side. So it caused some like morphing to my ribs and it was super uncomfortable. And again, that was because of my gap of education in the LGBT community and in the trans community. And the trans community that is interested in transitioning as well as the non-binary community. And so once I realized that I could have a better binder, I purchased one. I was lucky enough to be able to purchase one. And as I grew up and everything was still kind of hush hush, everything with Trump started to go on, and Lord, how it like affected family ties and friendships and just everything. It was it changed my entire life, honestly.
Yeah.
And realizing that that change was for the better. And I was like, oh my God, my whole life was just so quiet and so uneducated. Somebody needs to educate students. Somebody needs to encourage students who want to educate their fellow peers. And they also need help in being able to properly care for themselves and not have to worry about a lack of money. So that's where, coming into play with providing chest binders is really important to me because I know how uncomfortable it was to go without a binder and be wearing hoodies in the 120-degree heat because that's how it gets in Arizona. Um, and or just having to, either not be able to wear the hoodie and that honestly, I'd rather lock myself in my house than do that. So that led to missing school. And